participating in today's presentation. And as we all know, we are here to inform ourselves about gut feelings, how diet shapes microbial communities and drives health outcomes. And this will be taken by Dr. Charles Apprey. So let me know if you can hear me clearly. And in some few minutes, we will start. So I wish you all the best. And at any point in time, we will interact and take your questions and comments. So in some few minutes, we would kickstart. And I pray that you give us those few minutes so that we get a little bit more attendance, and then we can start. Whilst we wait to start, a few house rules. Kindly put your mics on mute throughout the whole process so that we don't get much interruption. If you have any questions, just note them down, and then we'll take them after the session. Thank you. If you are just joining us, good evening once again. It's 5 minutes past 4, and we are starting the presentation. You are all welcome to the GAN CPD series. This is something that we do on Wednesdays so that members and professionals can be abreast with current evidence on some of our practices. And it would be nice if we give Dr. Apprey all the attention so that we can find a way to incorporate some of these researches and evidences in our practices. My name is Julius Evame Apapa. I'll be your moderator for today. And before that, I would want to repeat some few ground rules. Kindly put your mics on mute. And also, if you have any questions or comments, write them down, and we'll give you some time to react to whatever is shared. So to start today's session, please join me as we share a short. Father Lord, we thank you for an opportunity like this. We thank you that we have the chance to be alive and the chance to learn. We pray that whatever we learn, you shall multiply it and help us to apply it in our daily practices. In Jesus' name we pray with all thanksgiving. Amen. Okay. So just by way of introduction, today we are going to learn about gut feelings, how diet shapes microbial communities and drives health outcomes. And this is going to be taken by one of our distinguished members, Dr. Charles Apprey, who is a nutritional biochemist and senior lecturer at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. He has 11 years of experience in teaching, research, and academic leadership. He holds a PhD in biochemistry with specialization in dietary interventions in childhood cancers, which he completed in 2015. His research focuses on promoting nutrition and health across the life course, spanning 4 core domains: maternal and child nutrition, adolescent nutrition, food environment and systems, and nutrition in non-communicable diseases. He has led and participated in several nationally and internationally funded projects, including collaborations with the Nestle Foundation, University of Tokyo, World Food Programme, Ajinomoto Foundation, and the Periodic Food Table Initiative. He has published over 70 peer-reviewed articles alongside 30 plus conference abstracts. He is currently the postgraduate coordinator at the Department of Biochemistry and Biotechnology at the KNUST and has supervised over 70 theses. He also serves as Deputy Institute Exams Officer, IDL KNUST, External Examiner for the University of Cape Coast, University of Ghana, University of Cape Coast, Ghana, and University of Lilongwe in Malawi. He frequently appears on radio and TV to educate the public on healthy eating and disease prevention, reinforcing his commitment to community service and public health. So, dear audience, without much ado, help me welcome Dr. Charles Apprey. Dr. Apprey,
Thank you. Thank you so
we
much.
are ready for you.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
the wonderful introduction. And I'm grateful for the opportunity that has been given me today. Could you please make me the co-host so I can share my slides, please?
Okay, sure.
Doc, you are already the co-host.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So, like you rightly introduced me, I'm going to talk about gut feelings. And I'm sure some of you are wondering, what is gut feelings in nutrition? Or what is gut feelings in dietetics? And so I decided to coin my topic, gut feelings, and how diet is shaping the microbial communities and driving health outcomes. As I walk you through this presentation, you would come to appreciate why I am saying gut feelings. So, as has already been introduced, I would want you to stay with me, a little attention, and I'll walk you through. And I'm sure by the time I'm done, you'd appreciate what gut feelings is about. So, to start with, the first thing I want to talk about is what is gut feelings generally, like I've said. It is the intelligence of the unconsciousness. And sometimes we are also able to call it the intuition or the hunches. And these are those immediate instinctive reaction or judgments that usually come without even our conscious reasoning. And we know that these things or these gut feelings usually play a lot of significant role when it comes to our decision making, when it comes to our emotions, and even sometimes our survival. And so gut feeling is very important. Now, one of the facts I want to put across here is that our gut feelings might be more than just intuition, even though I've said it's the intuition, but it's more than the intuition. Emerging research has suggested that trillions of microbes that are found in our GIT, when I say gut, basically I'm talking about the gastrointestinal tract. And when you take all the microbes that is found in our gastrointestinal tract, we can simply call them the gut microbiome. Research has proven that these microbes or this microbiome is gradually shaping our instincts, our moods, and even our decisions. And so if these microbes that are found in our GIT or in our gastrointestinal tracts are playing a role or are playing a significant role in our instincts, in our moods, and even our decision making, then indeed that is gut feeling. And that's why I think that the microbial community is now shaping our gut feeling. So this is the objective of my presentation. I want to give you an overview of the microbial communities, the gut microbiome composition, and their functions. I would also want to let us understand the role diet play, especially in shaping this gut microbiota. And then also would lead you through to identify foods and dietary patterns that are influencing the gut health positively and those that are influencing the gut health negatively. And then on, we would explore some of the implications of this for clinical practice, especially as I'm talking to dietitians and nutritionists here. So that is the objective and how I want to carry you through this evening for the presentation. Now, let's give you a brief introduction of the microbial community. So what are these microbial communities? These are basically a group of microbes. Examples include bacteria, archaea, fungi, viruses, protozoans, and all that. And they live together in shared environments and interact with each other. Now, one thing we should take note about these guts or this microbial community, is the fact that their structure, their diversity, and their activities are very critical to maintain health. And I've already established that in my prelude. They also help in supporting the ecosystem and then enable many individual or other industrial processes as you want to take it. Now, in human, what is the role of these guts? Research has proven that they play a very important role in aiding digestion. So there's digestion support there. They help in building the immune system. And as I explore and I take it through, I'll talk to you about how particularly they are helping with the immune system. One of the easy ways you can define or you can explain this principle is the fact that they prevent the harmful pathogens from taking over what we call the healthy ones. In the ecosystem, these same microbes are doing a lot of important things, some of which include decomposing our organic matter. By so doing, they are cycling the nutrients. If you look at the nitrogen cycle, these decomposers are very important in our nitrogen cycle, and they will help plants to grow. Let's not forget, plants is the basis of a lot of our good health and good nutrition. In the industries, they are also used for fermentation. And as I walk you through this journey, I'll talk to you about some of the essence of this gut microbiome in fermentation, in biotechnology, and even in waste treatment. So what are the key features of this microbial community? There is always a diversity of these microorganisms. They are very diverse. If you remember, I've mentioned that we have bacterial in there, you have some viruses in there, you have some protozoans in there, you have some algae in there. So diversity is no doubt. And there's a lot of interaction that occurs and happens among these microbes. They're also location specific. So a lot of them can be located in certain parts of the body. And in this evening presentation, I'm going to focus a little bit more on what is located in the gut. And then they're also very dynamic and then adaptive. So these are the key features of the microbial communities. Now let's zoom in to talk about the gut microbiome. The human gut microbiome is a complex ecology of microorganisms that would coexist with the human host. And as the name will suggest, they live in the gut. In other words, the digestive tract or the GIT, the gastrointestinal tract. And like I've said, you can find bacterial in there, there's some fungi in there, there's some few viruses in there, there's some other microbes that even sometimes tend to be parasitic. All these come together to form what we call the gut microbiome. Now, research has proven that if unperturbed, if not disturbed, these gut microbiomes can coexist with the human host and is usually able to play a significant beneficial role because of the relationship they have and have been implicated in a lot of human physiological processes. The gut microbiome, for instance, can influence the brain function. It influences digestion. It can play a lot of important role in immunity and also in metabolism. One thing that is no doubt to us, based on the research we've done over the years, is that the gut microbiome goes through changes throughout the human life cycle. And so as we grow, as we age, as we go through the various stages of the life cycle, these gut microbiomes are also going through some form of changes. Now, what are the functions of this gut microbiome? To mention a few, they assist in breaking down of food and absorption of nutrients. Basically, that is the role of the GIT. So they help the GIT to perform its function by playing a digestive role. They also promote anti-inflammatory responses and aid in immune function. And you and I will know, and I'm sure we all know, that a lot of our disease prevention function is based on these anti-inflammatory responses and then immune function. What is also very important for us to take note of is that they help maintain the gut barrier. And when this gut barrier is kept, bacterial and other toxins are kept inside this gut or inside this digestive tract, and we're able to prevent them from escaping into the bloodstream. Because some of them, when they're able to escape into the bloodstream, they are going to be suicidal to our health. The last but not the least is also that they contribute to the metabolism and the synthesis of some essential vitamins. Some of these are the B vitamins. I can talk specifically about B12, that's cyanocobalamin, and then even vitamin K. And so these guts are playing diverse role. To continue, they help maintain the integrity of the epithelium cell or the intestinal epithelium. And once they help maintain that integrity of the intestinal epithelium, what it means is that they prevent pathogens from colonizing the gut. Because the moment pathogens start colonizing the gut, they will then tend now to become what we call parasites. Then the gut microbiome also help to digest this, what we call the non-digestible carbohydrates, or other literatures will say the dietary fats. Let's not forget that when you take the dietary fat, there are the soluble and then the insoluble ones. All these are essential for health, and the gut microbiome helps in feeding these microbes, or the gut microbes help in digesting or help in keeping these non-digestible carbohydrates in shape. It also helps to modify bile acid, so we don't convert the primary bowels to the secondary bowels, because it has been proven that these secondary bowels, if they are allowed to get in touch with the GIT for a longer period, that is virtually what is going to lead to what we call the pro or the pre-carcinogens. And of course, that is the genesis of cancer formation. The gut also, or the gut-brain axis, also influences mood a lot. Cognition has also been implicated in that. Mental health and all the other things we can talk about in terms of promoting mental health can also be associated with the gut function. Now, like I've already established with you, the gut microbial or the gut microbiome is diverse. And so the diversity tells us that there are a number of different types of microbes in the gut, and they have to be, or they are evenly distributed. Why are they supposed to be so? Because this diverse microbiome in the gut is important for healthy gut, and it's been proven over and over again that it's associated with overall health and well-being and protect also us against diseases. What are the major factors that will bring about this perturbation or disruption of the diversity of the gut microbiome? Three things have been implicated. There could be more, but the three major ones we've identified is the diet. And you should not be surprised that I've kept diet as a first option, because it has been proven that diet indeed disrupts the GIT or the microbiome in the gut. Antibiotics can also play a role. And so antibiotics has been proven, and as we move on, I would explain how antibiotics do that. And then the environment. So these are three major factors that has been implicated in affecting the diversity of the gut. Like I said, diet has been implicated to play the largest role when it comes to the microbial biodiversity and the balance. And it plays a crucial role in shaping the gut microbiome. So let's take note of that. It tells us that whenever we are making a choice of what kind of diet or what kind of food we are eating, we should always pay attention that it can play or it can have a significant effect on our gut microbiome. Now, what are the dietary influences on this microbiome? So I have put the dietary patterns, and I'm sure a lot of us here are aware of this. We can put this diet into three patterns. The Western diet high in fat, sugar, a lot of processed foods, or generally what we have come to associate them as obesogenic food that are promoting obesity. All these foods are associated with low microbial diversity and then increased inflammation. We can talk about the Mediterranean diet. These are rich in fiber, healthy fat, and other polyphenols. And it has been proven that most of these promote diverse and healthy microbiome. Of course, vegetarian or vegan diets, high in fiber, plant-based nutrients, can also help to influence the gut microbiome. So this is what I'm talking about. This is a typical westernized diet. This is a classical, Mediterranean, as you want to put it. And this is a typical, diet. So this, we have been told that these diets, actually, the second, let me go back again. This is what is disrupting the gut microbiome. These ones are improving the gut microbiome. These ones are improving the gut microbiome. So right from here, we have our choice to make. Let's now zoom into some of the key nutrients and how they affect the microbiota. So the first one is the dietary fiber. And I guess I've already mentioned to you in the previous presentation that when we talk about dietary fiber, am I still on?
Yes, you are.
Great, sorry, there was a power fluctuation, so I thought I was off. Sorry. So when we
Oh,
talk about
well.
great, when we talk about dietary fiber serves as prebiotic to a lot of these gut microbiome. In other words, this gut microbiome actually feeds, or this bacterial and other microorganisms in the gut actually feed on this fiber. Example is the bifidobacteria, the lactobacilli. They all tend to feed on this, dietary fiber, and that support their growth. And once they are growing, what it means that they are sustaining the gut. And as the moment they're able to sustain the gut, it makes the gut a healthier gut. Of course, fermentation of fiber by these microbes can also produce what we call the short-chain fatty acids. Example is the butyrate, the acetate, and the propionate. And all these support the gut health and reduce some form of inflammation. What are the sources of this fiber? I think I'm talking to dietitians and nutritionists who know this, but just brief. Fruits are there, vegetables are there, whole grains are there, legumes are there, nuts are there. These are good sources of fiber, and they all help to improve the gut health. The next thing I'll talk about is the polyphenols. These are antioxidant compounds, and they promote the growth of beneficial microbes. Example is the Akkermansia muciniphila, and then the Faecalibacterium prosnatil. All these are microbes that are growing or that are supposed to grow in the gut that plays the beneficial roles that I've discussed with you already. And we are told that polyphenol, even though it's an antioxidant, it also helps to promote the growth of these bacteria. They also help. Another thing they do is that they help to reduce the harmful pathogens. Once they are growing, the beneficial ones are growing and getting sustained, the harmful ones cannot take charge or they cannot have any say in the gut. Berries, tea, coffee, some cocoa species, turmeric are a very good example of these polyphenols. The next is the probiotics. When it comes to probiotics, we are told, and typically, maybe let me just explain, probiotics usually will contain live beneficial bacteria. And because they contain the live beneficial bacteria, they can colonize the gut and enhance the microbial diversity. Example is the fermented foods like the yogurt, the kefir, the sauerkraut, the kimchi and miso and all that. These are all very good examples of probiotics. And they are also live bacteria, live beneficial, and so they enhance the microbial diversity. When you talk about proteins, some plant-based proteins also promote beneficial bacteria. Example is the soy protein, the nuts, and some other animal proteins as well. And so we are told, for instance, that red meat, consumption of red meat is linked to increase in the Bilophila wartworthia. It's a microbe associated with inflammation. And so what it is that plant proteins are actually healthier when it comes to the gut health as compared to the animal proteins. Now, what are some high fat and high sugar diets? I've mentioned that already. It's been proven, and there are a number of papers that have been reviewed to suggest to us that diets that are high in fat and sugar are also associated with reduced microbial diversity. And also, they end up proliferating the harmful bacteria, and that can lead to inflammation and other metabolic disorders. What are some of these sources of these foods? So the processed foods, like I've said, the sugary snacks, the fried foods, all of them in one way or the other disrupt the gut diversity. And once they disrupt the diversity or the microbial diversity of the gut, it tends to affect the gut health. The next one is the food additives. So some additives can also harm the gut barrier and then reduce the microbial diversities. Example includes some of the emulsifiers, the artificial sweeteners, and the preservatives in some of the processed foods. And so the thing I want to put across here is that processed foods would have to be minimized. The coloring, because don't forget that before we go in for the processing, we need some colorings, we need some sweeteners, we need some emulsifiers, some preservatives, some thickness, and some flavor enhancers. All these in one way or the other disrupt the gut microbial diversity. Then alcohol consumption has been proven through different research across the world that excessive alcohol also disrupts the gut microbiome, and by so doing reduces the diversity and promotes the growth of the harmful bacteria. Let's take note that traditional diets that are rich in fiber, fermented food, and diverse plant-based, example like I've said, the Mediterranean or the Asian diet, are associated with high dietary diversity than the westernized or what we call the highly processed diet, which are sometimes actually lower in fiber. Then we can also look at antibiotics. Of course, we know when we say antibiotics, basically these are drugs or chemical agents that disrupt the growth of microorganisms. Typically, we can put our microorganisms into two groups, what we call the gram-negative, the gram-positive, and maybe even what we call the universal ones. One of the things you should take note of is that most of these antibiotics, in one way or the other, technically, in one way or the other, attack some of these, what we call beneficial microbes when we take them. And so antibiotics has also been proven to disrupt the gut diversity. And so a diet that is rich in prebiotics, probiotics, and polyphenols can usually restore the balance. And that's how come sometimes, even in our own practice, after an antibiotic dosage, after a cycle of antibiotics, we usually recommend to our people or our friends, our patients, our clients, to go in for these prebiotics and probiotics so as to restore or to be able to restore the gut balance. Intermittent fasting or consistent eating schedule can also positively affect the diversity of the microbial diversity in the gut. And sometimes what it is, and it's been proven in some data, that is able to help allow the gut to repair and then regenerate. And so in simple terms, I have said that the diets that are high in refined carbohydrates, sugars, and saturated fats disrupt the gut microbiome diversity. Food that are high in processed stuff like preservatives, emulsifiers, artificial sweeteners can also destroy the microbial diversity in the gut. Food that are low in dietary fiber can also destroy the diversity of the diet. And then food that are low in micronutrient rich whole foods actually also affect the diversity. Of course, they lead to reduced diversity. I've already explained that. They increase the pathogenic bacteria to now thrive in the gut. So once the healthy ones' diversity is going down, the unhealthy ones are now taking over. And so the harmful microbes like the Enterobacteriaceae now get the chance to go and stay in the gut. And then, of course, they also bring about inflammation. I've said that already. So they lead to diet-induced dysbiosis, and this promotes inflammation. And so, and then, of course, the low fiber also bring about short-chain fatty acids, or it reduces the production of short-chain fatty acids, and that weakens the gut barrier integrity and the immunity. And then, of course, they fluctuate. They lead to frequent fluctuation of the microbial population, so it brings about microbial or microbiome instability. So these are all some of the effects of the Western diet or Western food on our gut microbiome. Now, when you take the traditional Ghanaian food, like I've said, or our traditional foods, a lot of them are high in fiber, whole grain, so millet, sorghum, tubers, yam, cassava, legume, rich in fermented foods, kenke. Don't forget about banku, cocoa, soy. All these are fermented. And don't forget that when you are doing fermentation, you're also introducing some level of microbiome. And it has been proven that all these microbiome help to keep the guts healthy. Balanced macronutrients from plant-based and moderate animal protein are also good. And the use of polyphenol-rich species or spices, like ginger, like turmeric, like pepper, and all that can also help improve the gut health. Of course, when these traditional foods are on the gut, they increase the diversity. The short-chain fatty acid production is on the high. There's a level of microbial stability. It reduces the level of inflammation, and then it supports the probiotics and then the prebiotics for the flourishing of what we call the beneficial bacteria. So I have tried to put this in a small table. I'm a teacher, so I re-echo and re-emphasize a lot of the things I say. So if you look at the aspects, and then the Western, and then the traditional Ghanaian diet. And so I am not here to promote traditional Ghanaian diet, but it has been proven over and over again that a lot of our traditional Ghanaian diets are able to now get that beneficial effect we are looking for when it comes to the gut microbiome. Now, how do we synergize both the Western and the traditional Ghanaian diet for optimal gut health? And so the traditional foods are more beneficial for gut health due to the high fiber, like I said, due to the fermentation and then the nutrient diversity. The Westernized diet are slightly highly processed, low fiber, and tend to reduce the gut microbiome diversity and hence promote inflammation. So adopting a diet rooted in traditional practices while minimizing the aspect of the Western diet can help optimize our gut health and then overall well-being. Of course, what are the key strategies? So retain the high fiber, low processed food foundation of Ghanaian cuisine. Incorporate occasionally some few Western elements like fortified food for nutrient enrichment, and then avoiding overconsumption of the Western processed and then the sugary snacks. I think these are all things we know. What is the impact of the imbalanced diet on our gut health? So once there's an imbalance, like I've said, it has a significant effect on the gut microbiome, leading to a condition we call the dysbiosis. And dysbiosis is a state where the microbial imbalance or there's microbial imbalance, or there's a reduced diversity. And the imbalance will then disrupt the gut microbiome diversity, the function, and has all the far-reaching consequences on your immunity, on your health, and then the overall health, like I've said with you. So what are the impact of the imbalanced diet on the gut microbiome? So reduce microbial diversity, like I've said, and I've tried to explain that. So diet lacking variety, particularly those with low fiber and high processed food, can limit the growth of the beneficial bacteria. Once they limit the growth, it reduces the diversity, and that will make you susceptible to infections, inflammation, and other chronic diseases. Then, of course, they also lead to the overgrowth of pathogenic bacteria. So once there's sugar, there's refined carbohydrates, a lot of unhealthy fats. These feed on these harmful bacteria, and especially even the fungi like the Candida albicans. And all these feed on them, so they grow and then they tend to disrupt the integrity of the gut. So impact of the Imbalanced diet increase chronic diseases. I think I've said that already. It brings about persistent dysbiosis can be due to an imbalanced diet, and that can lead to metabolic syndrome, obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, even some cancers of the GIT origin have all been implicated in terms of this gut dysbiosis. And then, of course, inflammation, I've discussed that already, and then gut barrier. So low fiber, high fat diet and consumption of additives and then other emulsifiers can impact the bacteria and then other produces other what we call the short chain fatty acids, weakening the gut lining. And this can also bring about some conditions like chronic irritable bowel syndrome and so on and so forth. Of course, impaired immune function. Once your immune function is impaired due to long-term dysbiosis, that brings about imbalance in the immune response, increases vulnerability to infection, and then even to some extent autoimmune conditions. So what are the dietary recommendations? So emphasize plants forward diet rich in fiber and diverse nutrients, limit processed food. I've said that, increase intake of fiber, incorporate fermented food in our diet, and then of course we stay hydrated. So the gut microbiome in infants, I want to now look a little bit about infants. It's also highly dynamic, and we are told that it's influenced significantly by diet, especially in the early months of life. And so let's take note of the fact that the early days, what we call the first 1,000 days, the diet pattern of the infant in one way or the other also shape what the gut microbiome of these infants are going to look like going forward. And there are evidence that healthy gut microbiome during infancy is crucial for long-term health. At the infancy, we know, or at the infancy stage, we know breastfeeding is one of the things that we are advocating for. I know this month is a month of breastfeeding. I've seen GAN doing a lot about advocacy for exclusive breastfeeding. I want to also associate myself with it and say that breast milk contains essential probiotics and other prebiotics. Some of them are what we call the oligosaccharide or short chain carbohydrates, and most of these short chain carbohydrates actually nourish the beneficial bacteria, what we call the bifidobacteria. It also provides some level of antibodies. Let's not forget the bifidobacter is for me, or those antibodies that you get in the early breast milk is one of the most important things you need to protect the child. So exclusive breastfeeding is very important because it has been recommended for balanced gut microbiome. When it gets to the introduction of solid food, what we call the complementary feeding, of course, we know this. I do not even try or attempt to talk to you about complementary feeding. I know you know a lot about this, but let's take note that when we are going in for some of these things, let's not forget about what we call the high fiber foods, mashed foods, some vegetables and all that as part of the things. Of course, I know sometimes at that stage, because the immune system is not strongly built, fermented foods, we are a bit careful about fermented food. But sometimes it is very important that we introduce them in small amounts and we go a little, slowly, so that they also get that benefit to their probiotics. And then, of course, when it comes to the introduction of solid food, legumes are also very critical. Lentils and beans for fiber and nutrient. Diverse diet is very important. I think I've said over and over again that once a diet is diverse, what it means that you are promoting the diversity of the gut microbiome. And then, of course, avoid sugary foods and also artificial sweetness because they can harm the gut. When it comes to infants, what are the recommendations for balanced gut? So continue healthy diet, transition from what we call the family diet, rich in whole, minimally processed, encouraging the fiber-rich food, the vegetables, the whole grain, and then which acts as probiotics to sustain the gut health. What are some of the recommendations? Avoid overuse of antibodies. So antibodies can disrupt the developing microbiome by killing the beneficial bacteria. And so use of antibodies only when medically necessary, even sometimes with the guidance of the doctor in this infant and children, is very relevant. And then, of course, hygienic yet microbiome friendly practices. So balanced hygiene, sterilization. Excessive sterilization is actually a problem because when you do excessive sterilization, it means that you have killed almost all the natural microbiomes around the food. And of course, natural exposure sometimes allow for safe interaction with pets, soil, and other. In fact, there's a whole school of thought that suggests that our part of the world survived COVID a lot because our body has been exposed to several microbes or several of these viruses. And we have learned to, as a way, build some form of, some form of immune response to them. And that's how come we're able to survive COVID a lot. Of course, what are some of the benefits of balanced gut microbiome in infant? Strengthen the immune system, so it reduces the risk of allergy, improve digestion and nutrient absorption, protect against disease like obesity, diabetes, and gastrointestinal disorders later in life. What are the challenges to a healthy gut microbiome in the Ghanaian context? Let's admit that we say it, but we can't always have it as it is. We know there are limited access to high fiber foods. Some are very expensive. And so it's something we need to pay attention to. Over-reliance on processed and refined foods. And I think here our advocacy is doing a lot, but we need to do more and probably try to make sure that we are minimizing the processed and refined foods our people are eating. Limited awareness of the gut microbiome health. People don't have the awareness of it, and that's why we are doing this CPD, or we are doing this training. Then food safety and hygiene issues. Antibiotic misuse. There's a lot of issues. When the guys in pharmacy talk to you, antibiotic resistance is a big challenge in the country now because our people are misusing antibiotics. Let's take note of that. Economic constraints. Sometimes you know what we have to eat, but we don't have the means to get there. And then, of course, cultural dietary preferences. Culturally, we've got preferences to some type of diet. And so even whether they are not healthy to the gut, it becomes difficult to switch. And then, of course, promoting traditional fermented foods. So we need to promote them. These are the considerations. Encourage dietary diversity, raise awareness of the gut microbiome, improve food safety and sanitation, reduce antibiotic use, and then integrate what we call a modernized gut health science into traditional dietary practice without undermining the cultural values. And I think that's what I'm doing this afternoon. So what are the key summary? What are the key takeaway? I'm wrapping up. A healthy gut microbiome is essential for digestion, immunity, mental health, and even prevent some chronic diseases. And these have all been rooted in research. A lot of research has been able to implicate or suggest this. Diet plays a central role in shaping the gut microbiome. And traditional Ghanaian diets that are rich in fiber, fermented foods, support the microbial diversity. And the westernized, dominated by the processed food, actually in a way disrupt the gut microbiome or the diversity of the microbiome. Another thing I want to put across is that the unhealthy diet can lead to dysbiosis, so reduce the biodiversity or the diversity. Once you reduce that, inflammation and increased risk of diseases such as obesity and diabetes is on the high. Early nutrition, including breastfeeding, timely introduction of fiber-rich complementary foods and probiotic is critical for establishing the gut microbiome and promoting foods that are fermented, dietary diversity, affordable, locally produced, coupled with education and food safety improvement can all, in one way or the other, enhance the health across the population. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'm all ready for any question. Thank you.
That was very interesting. And thank you very much, Dr. Charles Apprey, for opening our eyes to some of these things, and then we appreciate it. So we would open the floor for questions, and Franklin would help me to unmute the people. And so I have some few hands up. I see Pius Safo. So if we can.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Apprey, for such a wonderful presentation. I'm Pius, and I'm being trained in the gut microbiome field. I'm doing my PhD now. I would want to clarify, in your presentation, you did mention that specific dietary patterns, especially the Western diet, which is known for high abundance in red meat and then processed meats, tend to select for certain bacteria species, for example, the Bilophila. Given our case in Ghana, where traditionally I would say, or everybody would agree with me, that we have a dietary pattern that is high in dietary fiber. I was wondering, when you look at the physiochemical properties of dietary fiber, we have the fermentable and the non-fermentable. I was curious to know if the fermentability of dietary fiber potentially select for certain bacteria species that are beneficial to the gut microbiome.
Thank you very much. Can I go? Can I answer straight away? Or you want to take
Yes.
a certain number of questions?
Yes, you can answer straight
Okay,
away.
okay. Thank you. So you are perfectly right. So the fermentability of some of the fiber actually selectively enhance the survival of some bacteria in the gut. You are perfectly right. The only thing is that even the non-fermentable fibers, sometimes we are also told that during digestion, they also tend to produce some short-chain oligosaccharides. And these short-chain oligosaccharides, in one way or the other, also can be fed on by these gut microbes. And so when it comes to fiber, the fermentable fibers may be the optimum in terms of the gut health, but even the non-fermentable ones, also in one way or the other, also promote healthy gut health. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So before I take the next question, we have some comments in the chat. I see you are on, Doc. Great presentation. That's from Daniel Ayine. Then thank you, Doc, from Bevelin. Benedicta says, insightful presentations. Sally says, thanks so much. That's an insightful presentation. Ivy says, thanks, Doc. Great presentation, quite insightful. And Betha says, thank you very much, Dr. Charles. That was an excellent presentation, very well structured and informative. Then Magdalene says, excellent presentation. Thank you, Doc. So now we'll take a question from Pearl Panza.
Thank you so much, Dr. Apprey. Please, my question is, I heard that taking apple cider vinegar boosts the gut probiotics in our system. Is that true or false? And secondly, will frequent consumption of antibiotics, the medication antibiotics, destroy the healthy biotics in our body? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Apple, let me take the first one. The first one is how do you call it? The first one. Your second question, I want to actually respond to the second question first. The second question was on, I've lost it briefly. Pearl, are you there? I was writing, but I missed it. Pearl, are you there? Your second question was whether
taking antibiotics affects the
yes.
Affect
So
the healthy probiotics.
yes. Like I've said, some of our antibiotics. Okay, I mean, I don't want to go into mechanism of antibiotics. I'm a bit. The people I'm talking to, I don't want to go there. But typically, when you take an antibiotics, most of the antibiotics, in a way, but the biggest target of every antibiotics is the cell wall of the bacteria. Most of them is a cell wall of the bacteria, whether it's a gram-positive or gram-negative bacteria. And most of the antibiotics are not really selective. When I say they are not selective, what it means is that they can deal with healthy bacteria and sometimes also unhealthy bacteria. And so, yes, it's been proven that frequent use of antibiotics actually disrupts or destroys the gut microbiome. And once it destroys the gut microbiome, what it means is that it affects health. For apple cider vinegar, yes, I've also read, but sometimes you see, when you read thank you, Frank. when you read and you get to know that, well, apple cider will promote gut health. Sometimes we don't go out there with just one information coming from one source. You want to read a bit of some form of a systematic review work that has been done in the area where different research have been pulled together. You want to read some form of clinical trials, and I'm yet to come across any of those research. So I don't want to stick my neck out. Maybe now you said that, I want to also read a little about gut microbiome, and apple cider vinegar. Maybe some few clinical trials will point me out to that. But for now, I am not able to respond directly to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, if you have any further questions, you can either drop it in the chat or raise your hand, and then we would allow you to ask. So, Mr. Payosafo Bobo has another question. Hello, Pius. Can go ahead. Okay, if Pius is not ready, then let me go back to Bell.
I think the old hands are still up. That's what I suspect. These are two people who have asked questions already. So these are
The
old
hand
hands.
was down, and then it went up again.
Pius want to be unmuted, please.
Okay, Pius.
He can speak.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Apprey, I just wanted to clarify this. In your presentation, you kept on mentioning processed foods. I wanted you to put it in context. Were you referring to industrially processed foods, or because typically processed foods, I would say that when I get my cassava from the farm, it undergoes certain form of processing. So, and even for industrially processed foods, now there is argument in the literature that not all processed foods are bad. So I was wondering if you could put it into context of your presentation.
Okay. So that's a very good point to raise. So I think that when we started this journey, we started with processed food as a nomenclature, and then later on we went to industrially processed food, and now we are at ultra processed foods. And so maybe what I would want to use right now is ultra processed foods. However, I want also to say that there's a thin line. Sometimes, I'm sure you know about an overclassification. There's a lot of confusion and challenges, even when it comes to putting foods in this Nova classification. There's a thin line between what an ultra processed food is and what a semi-processed food is. At the end of the day, there are some key features that we can use to identify these processed foods, and I mentioned them. Some of them include the excessive sugar and so on and so forth. And so the point I'm making here is that once they meet those criteria, those key features, in one way or the other, we can beat about the bush, but it is still to some extent a processed food. So I understand that maybe we want to be a little bit clear to say that ultra processed. That would make it a bit more okay. So thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you. So we have a question from YouTube, and we are also streaming live on YouTube, and we have a question from YouTube, and this is from Madam Akosia Okreku. And this is a question, Dr. Apprey. How will we classify the traditional Ghanaian foods, that's fufu, ampesi, kontomire, etc.?
How will I classify them? Is that a question?
Yes.
Yes. So, well, these are like my friend Pyle said. These are traditional Ghanaian foods. The kokontes and the bankuns, I know some of them have been fermented. So some level of fermentation has gone on, and it's been proven that some of these fermentation also enhance the gut microbiome or the microbiodiversity. And so I can, of course, I'm a bit careful because I'm in the midst of dietitians, but I can say that they are the healthier options, provided we are taking them in their right quantity for the right purpose. I'm a bit careful to talk about nutritional, dietary levels because of the people I'm speaking to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. But Dr. Apprey, we are not scary people. Just so you are sure.
Anyway.
Okay, so we have Sam has raised his hand. And
Yes.
Sam, can you?
Yes. Good evening. Thank you very much, Dr. Apprey. This is Sam Osaka. Doc, I want to find out what would you think would be the relationship or the association between the intermittent fasting. I heard you mention intermittent fasting.
Yes, please.
That could help improve
Yes, please. Yes, please. So
the gut
actually,
microbiome. What would you think the association could be?
okay. So, well, from literature, the suggestion is that this intermittent fasting actually sometimes, in a way, gets our, as they will call it, get the stomach to have a bit of a readjustment. And so, in a way, if there are any microbes or if there are any excessive dysbiosia, some of this fasting in one way or the other helps the gut to restore itself in one way or the other. And so that's why the intermittent fasting is recommended in this regard. Only that, of course, from where I sit and my metabolism, I know that if the intermittent fasting is not also handled well, it can also have its own effect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's okay. I have more hands for you, Dr. Apprey. So I have Dr. Hayford.
Yes. So good evening, everyone, and good evening, Dr. Apprey. So that was really an insightful presentation, and I had a very good gut feeling about the fact that it was going to be wonderful. Yeah. So I would want you to tell me what your take is on this practices. So there's this practice about fecal transplantation that have been shown to improve gut microbiome. But then if we would have to apply it in our local parlance, for instance, I know, for instance, some people see grass cutter feces, fecal matter, as a very nice delicacy. I'm wondering in your research whether you came across, I know you talked about a lot of plant, local food. Did you come across, or would you recommend, the use of grass cutter fecal matter, for instance? Some people really see it as a delicacy. I haven't tried it before, but a couple of people have mentioned that it's very nice. But I am looking at it from the gut microbiome, whether you think that it could be something that we could promote. I know some people would fight you if you kill grass cutter and you discard the yeah. So what do you think about that? What's
Thank
your
you very
take
much.
on that?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So let me start from here. I'm of the view that the gut microbiome of human is not significantly different from the gut microbiome of animals. In fact, the mammals, the mammal kingdom, the animalia, the mammalian phylum, whatever it is, the class, that group of organisms may not have distinctively different gut microbiome. There may be a lot of similarities. And so on that score, I would also want to tend to believe that the gut microbiome of the grass cutter may not extremely be significantly different from the gut microbiome of human, especially if you are all eating similar diets. But because this gut microbiome is shaped by diet and the things we eat around, based on what I've just said, and the grass cutter is not eating fufu, the grass cutter is not eating ampese, is not eating all the other foods that we have, then I'm of the candid opinion that the environment and the food that these two species are eating might then bring about some differences in the gut microbiome. And so we may want to be careful before we now say that then it's as good as what is in the stomach. I would want to always err on the side of caution, to say that we can then discuss or agree to this grass cutter, if you're able to even first isolate the microbial composition of whatever is in that grass cutter GIT. As at now, I have not done or I have not come across any research that has done that. Maybe somebody want to take up that and then get all the microbial identification from this grass cutter, whatever, gut. And then once we're able to do that, we can now then start making some inferences about how closer and how similar it is with the gut of the human. At this stage, I don't have that information, so I'm a bit careful. I have tasted; it's nice though, but I'm a bit careful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it would be good that we create a community of Akrante physics lovers, because I've also tasted it before. Yeah, so I mean, thank you. And I have a question. I don't know whether I should say a question or a concern.
Okay.
It's from Godwin Opoko. He says, knowing these huge benefits of the gut microbiome, should we be alarmed by people living with gut disorders? Is this something we should be scared of?
Yes, it's been proven. I mean, we I think recently we published one paper in that area, and it was even a systematic review, very good one we did. I could share with the group, and it's been proven that dysbiosis is the genesis of all the inflammation and all the disease conditions we can talk about. And so, yes, we should be worried about that. I think that maybe as dietitians, and the reason why I decided to present to this group of people is that we should also pay attention to the gut microbiota. And so when we are trying to help our clients, our patients overcome some of these cardiovascular and some of these conditions, we should also always be wary of the fact that we need to recommend foods that are going to help to restore their gut microbiome. Because a restored gut microbiome, in a way, enhance our immune system and our ability to fight against some form of infection and other diseases. So that's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. But this question is from me.
Yes, please.
You know, sometimes you get to a point where maybe somebody has been on probably like antibiotics for some time, or somebody comes with probably diarrhea or something, and we advise the person to go for lactobacilli. Or there's one of the market names is I think enterogermina, just with the hope that it's a quicker way for the person to improve the gut microbiome than relying on the prebiotics, the probiotics from yogurt and all those things. Do you think it's a good approach, and do you think we should encourage this among dietitians?
Very good. That's a good question. So, you see, based on what I have read and what I've presented and the research we have done, we are sure that the gut microbiome is diverse. It's not just one organism. And so, the whole concept is that sometimes we want to restore by using the probiotic, but sometimes the probiotic may not even be a good form of restoration. There's a whole school of thought that suggests that prebiotic restoration is better than a probiotic. In that, the prebiotic, you are not introducing any specific bacteria. You are rather feeding the healthier ones to survive. So it's a bit of a natural tendency. The probiotics, sometimes you are, especially if you overdo it, you're over focusing on one or two microbes. We need a diversity. We need the right concentration. We need the right environment. So the moment you stick to one microorganism and you are focusing and you are overdoing that, you are still actually in one way or the other causing the dysbiosis, even though you say you are correcting the dysbiosis. I don't know if what I've said makes sense. And so my take is that it is always okay that we look forward to looking for ways to restore the diversity, and not in a way of correcting diversity, introduce other things to cause more dysbiosis. And that's what I would say.
Okay. Thank you very much. And a follow-up. So what do we say to people that we find in public transport that are encouraging people to take their products to remove the amamine in their system?
I don't want to hear amamine. Whenever I hear amamine in car, I how do you call it? I plug in my headphones and then I am gone because I don't think the recommendations are anything good to go to write home about. And so I'm not, it's not something I want to talk about, but it's obviously a no-go area. I feel that we are overstretching this amamine thing. How do you even say it in English? I don't even know. I think we're overstretching it. Please. Thank you.
Okay. Well noted. So I have Francis who has raised his hand, but before Francis comes, I want to read this from Madam Adoma Boni. She's saying that there's a rising concern with non-nutritive sweetness causing dysbiosis as nutritionists and dietitians. What would be your advice? How do we, let me put it this way, let me paraphrase the question. There's a rising concern with non-nutritive sweetness causing dysbiosis. As nutritionists and dietitians, how do we advise our diabetic patients?
Yes, so like I mentioned, it is clear to us that this sweetness disrupts the gut microbiota. I know as dietitians, when we are giving them sweetness, we are looking at one way because we want to minimize the taking of simple sugars and all that. But even that, if you really look at the recent WHO release, you realize that the sweetness are not in entirely the way to go. Let's not forget that in the early years, some of these sweeteners were even put in what we call the, how do you call it? Some of these sweeteners were put in as carcinogenic, though some were taken off, others are still being kept there. So it's not a way, like it's not a shortcut way around. The sweeteners have been proven in one way or the other to cause gut dysbiosis. And so we want to minimize the recommendation we give to our patient. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So Francis, you can go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Apprey, for a wonderful presentation. Is there a point in time or under certain conditions that the gut microbiome itself become dangerous to human life? Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's a good question. It becomes dangerous to human life when there's dysbiosis. What I mean to say is when the microbiomes are not there as it is. And so there's a bit more of one over the other. Or when the healthy ones are being taken off by, of course, by our diet and other activities, and then the unhealthy ones. Don't forget, when the unhealthy ones are all there, they're also microbiome. They also gut microbiome, but they are not the natural ones. And so at that stage, it can also become dangerous to the human health. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So one of the papers Dr. Apprey talked about had been posted in the chat, and we also have the attendance link in the chat. So if you are part of the CPD, kindly do well to fill it so that we can have your details and get your CPD points for you. So you can click on the link and then fill the attendance form. You can also click on the link to the paper and then have a good read, because according to Godwin, he says a very good paper. Thanks, Dr. Apprey and AFES. Then iPhone, RD iPhone, or nutritionist iPhone, is saying that, Dr. Apprey, please, could you throw more light on the gut-brain axis? I did not get that part very well. Thank you.
The gut-brain axis.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been proven that there's something we call the gut-brain axis. More or less, the guts and the brain sit on a certain axis, or sit on a certain, if I should use the word, dimension. And once the gut is disrupted, the microbes in the gut is disrupted, it also disrupts the gut-brain axis. And once this gut-brain axis is disrupted, it affects the function of the gut microbiome. Of course, the basis of this disruption, or the down effect of this disruption, is that it tends to now affect what we call the mental health. It brings about mental health disorder or mental health issues like anxiety and all. Thank you.
Wow, that's interesting. Thank you. Thank you for giving us the information.
In other
And
words, or in another simple way, you can say it's a form of a communication between the gut and the brain. So the gut interacts, then the body is always communicating, each of them. So when the gut and the brain is communicating, that's what it is. But then when there's a disruption, it means that the communication channel, in simple terms, has been disrupted. And you know, once your communication channel is disrupted, you cannot have a better communication. And that's what brings about, of course, lead to mental health and other anxiety and depression issues. Thank you.
so you mean this could be a basis for medical nutrition therapy in mentally challenged persons?
Yes, please. Yes, please. That's what I am saying. And it's been proven. You
Oh.
can check it out. It's been proven, please.
So I have a message here from Joseph. Joseph is saying, Doctor, please, you encourage that we should eat fermented foods like banku and kinky. But during their preparation, they are subjected to high temperatures. Don't these microbes die in the process of cooking? If they die, then how come these fermented foods are essential? Do they act like substrates for the microbes in our stomach? Can I get enlightened?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a very good, important, very, very good question. So, not all the microbes are bacteria, some are yeasts. Even if it is bacteria, there are bacteria that can survive below a certain fact. The standard bacteria would be able to survive within our body temperature. But there are some bacteria that can survive in the deep freezer. There's some bacteria that can survive in extreme heat conditions. Yeast, because yeast is able to form a cyst around, or is able to more or less form a cyst around it. Some yeast can also go. So fermentation, usually when you're doing fermentation, mostly it's yeast that we are using. And some of the yeast can actually withstand high amount of heat. So even though the kenke has been cooked for how many hours, what have you, if you go and do microbial tests, you realize that there's some bacteria in there, there's some yeast in there as well, because they are able to survive these extreme temperatures. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Apprey. I think we've exhausted the questions. And please, if you have not filled the attendance form, kindly click on it and then fill it so that we can have your details. So at this point, would it be too much to ask that you should just summarize everything for us?
Yes,
so that we can have some tips.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. I think the summary is the fact that our gut microbiome is one of the most, in fact, it's an emerging field. A lot of research is being done now in gut microbiome. And we are beginning to realize that our health is really, really dependent on having a sustained and a diverse gut microbiome. Certain things we do disrupt the microbiome, the bacterial or the microorganism in the gut. And one of them that has profound effect on our gut microbiome is our diet. Certain diets enhance the diversity, other types of diet also disrupt the diversity. I have listed them there. Let's go for the diet that enhance the diversity, to be able to enhance the diversity of the microbes in our gut in one way or the other to keep us healthy. If I want to summarize, this is what I will say. And us here as dietitians, as nutrition officers, have a lot of decision and role to play when it comes to recommending to our clients and our patients what kind of food they would have to eat to enhance the diversity of the gut microbiome. And that is what I am saying. Let's also pay attention to them. I've listed the foods there. I listed, if you remember, I listed about 5 or 6 of them. Classifications. Let's try as much as possible to have a look at some of them. Let's tell our patient. In time past, we know that some of these westernized diets, or what we call the ultra processed foods, are in one way or the other able to promote obesity, because that's why we say they are obesogenic. But now we are realizing that it is not just the obesity promoting the type 2 diabetes and other cardiovascular conditions. It is also disrupting the diversity of the microbes in our gut. And so let's try as much as possible through our advocacy to minimize the intake of these foods, and so that we are able to all maintain a healthy gut and to have a gut feeling. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we all have a role to play. It's not just people in the clinical space. It's not just people in academia, not just people on the field, but together we all have a role to play, and we need to have more of these conversations so that the researches can be disseminated to us. We can understand it and translate it to improve the lives of other people. Dr. Apprey, thank you so much. We are so grateful having you here today.
Thank you for having me.
And you have done more than justice. Now, I don't know how I feel about my gut feeling. So this brings us to the end of the. So what I'm going to do is just to give some brief announcements, and then we'll call it a day. So the announcement is that every year in July, we observe what we call the National Nutrition Month, where we come with topics of interest. This year, we focused on nutrition, food label literacy, where we have done a lot of media advocacy and also posted on daily basis about food label and what people should know. I mean, this is our way of giving back to the society. This week, the first week of August has been dedicated to breastfeeding, and GANT is actively engaging people in the media space to increase awareness about the essence of breastfeeding, exclusive breastfeeding, the fact that we need systems to support the breastfeeding institution, and we want to invite all of you to on board so that at least as an association, as we are doing things like this, bring your ideas also at your facility levels, as wherever you find yourself. Make sure that you also do something to show that we as nutritionists and dietitians, we are truly the nutrition conscience of this country. And if you do anything at all that you share on social media, please tag the GANT official handles and also follow us on our social media platforms so that we can increase our visibility and continue to share the gospel. The GANT year started last month, and we are still reminding all of you to register. So if you have not registered, then you are not in good standing, and we are appealing to all of you to come on board, register, pay your dues, pay your CPD dues, so that we can continue organizing and sponsoring events such as this, so that we can learn and grow together. On behalf of the CPD committee, I would want to thank everyone who participated in this, especially Dr. Charles Apprey, for sharing your insightful knowledge with us. If you give us the opportunity, we couldn't have had time to gather all this information, but you have been able to summarize it in less than an hour for us, and we are really grateful. Thank you very much. So we have our GANT website link posted in the chat. Please go to the website, register. You can make your payments through the website. GANT, we are that advanced because we have one of the best people handling our website and all our online engagements. And I want to use this opportunity to thank them very much. People like Franklin, people like our PRO, Pearl. Thank you very much for the wonderful work that you are doing. If you have any comment or question or any issue at all, you can feel free to contact the GANT secretary or the GANT PRO, and your issues will be sorted as early as possible. So on this note, we have come to the end of today's session. And just as we started with a prayer, I would share a short word of prayer with you, and then we'll call it a day. So let's pray. Father Lord, we thank you that you have given us the opportunity to partake in this. We pray that you give us the strength to go out there to utilize this knowledge so that at the end of the day, you shall not see us as unworthy. We pray and we commit ourselves into your hands. Commit our workplaces into your hands. We commit our colleagues into your hands. Protect us, strengthen us, and make us the best in whatever we do. In Jesus' name, we pray all thanksgiving. Amen. Okay, so thank you and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much. Thank you. Bye.
Next time. Thank you to Dr. Charles.
Thank you.